Hey everybody, I think we are back, it looks like. So welcome to the second session today. Thanks to Nick for the keynote. That was really great. My name is Jeff Perkins. I'm the Chief Marketing and Product Officer from a company called ParkMobile. And I'm really happy to be here with you guys today. What I want to talk about are some of the lessons learned from our experience this year and kind of what COVID has taught us and some important takeaways for marketing leaders, no matter what business you're in. So let's dive in. I just want to quickly introduce myself, tell you a little personal stuff. So I grew up outside of Philadelphia. So here are, unfortunately, my team affiliations. I say I grew up in Philadelphia. Actually, I grew up in a part of Philadelphia. Some people refer to it as Southern New Jersey. For the Jersey people out there, it's exit 4. Jersey people identify themselves by exit either on the Parkway or the Turnpike. So I was right off of exit 4 in Southern New Jersey, about 20-minute ride outside of the Philadelphia Stadium. So grew up lifelong Phillies, Eagles, Flyers, Sixers fan. So tough times for Philly sports fans. As a Jersey kid, I'm a huge Springsteen fan, seen him 32 plus times in concert. So if anyone wants to geek out on Springsteen at some point, just hit me up. And I'm also big into Peloton. And I was actually, tons of people are into Peloton now during COVID. They've sold like gazillion bikes. I'm kind of an OG on Peloton. I was riding before it was cool. If you want to find me, I'm on the leaderboard. My name is Bald Guy. And what's interesting is you never know who you're going to see on a Peloton ride. So in this slide, you can see Mark Benioff, CEO of Salesforce. He rides Peloton. I was on a ride with him. And you can actually see here, I totally smoked Mark Benioff because I'm Bald Guy. Not to be confused with Big Bald Guy. I'm Bald Guy at the top of the leaderboard. And there's Mark Benioff well below me. Probably one of the few times in my life I'll beat Mark Benioff at anything. You know, and Mark Benioff, he's not like, you don't think of him as an athlete. So just to humble brag a little bit, here's Hugh Jackman. He's a big Peloton rider. And just to compare my score to Wolverine's score. So there we go. So I also beat Hugh Jackman on the Peloton, just, you know, hashtag humble brag there. So if you want to ride against me again, come at me, Bald Guy. The last point before we get started, I have a book coming out in middle of 2021. It's called How Not to Suck at Marketing. So if you want to learn more about that and get on kind of the pre-order list, check out my website, hownottosuckatmarketing.com. And now I have this kind of tradition before I do a presentation at a conference. I kind of like to present and practice in front of my kids. And I did this the other day, and I just want to kind of show you how it went. And hopefully this video will work.
In front of you right now. So listen to the presentation and let me know what you think, okay? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Perkins, and I'm happy to be here with you today. I'm going to talk and make sure you're doing everything.
Marketing is blah, blah, blah.
What would make it better, do you think?
I think if you added some unicorns and candy.
All right. I don't know if you got the full effect from that, but they didn't like my presentation, and they said it would be better if I had unicorns and candy. So kids are always right. So here you go, unicorns and candy. So let's jump in. So I work for ParkMobile. Hopefully some of you on this call have the ParkMobile app on your phone. We're the #1 parking app in the United States, about 20 million users, and we're in about 450 cities around the country. We process anywhere from 9 to 10 million transactions in kind of a pre-COVID world. And we're ranked #3 in the navigation category of the App Store, only behind Google Maps and Waze. So we're pretty big, widely used mobile app. And we let people pay for parking on the phone and skip the meter. And then when you're out and about, you can basically extend time remotely. So just an easier way to do parking transactions. We also have parking reservations at stadiums for sporting events and concerts as well. Like I said, we're everywhere. One of the big things about our product is that you can use it wherever you go, and you just look for our bright green stickers in really every city. And you can use the ParkMobile app. And about 30% of our users will use ParkMobile as they travel to different markets. So which is a really big competitive advantage for us overall in the category. We've had an amazing run for the last couple of years. This is just a quick brag slide, but we've been growing like crazy. We've been innovating like crazy. And really that's reflected in a lot of the great accolades that we've received. So it's been a really fun ride for me. I've been with the company 3 years, and you could kind of see the growth through about February 2020. And I hope a lot of you work for companies where you see charts like this, where we're kind of always going up and to the right, and it's very exciting. And here's kind of a look at our user growth during that time as well. Again, really great user growth. The reason you see some peaks and valleys there, it's just summer months are particularly good for us because we're in a lot of beach communities. So that's generally when transaction volume peaks out for us and user growth peaks out over the course of the year. But it's been, really, really exciting to be at the company with this rapid growth. Here's a picture of our crew. This was at our annual kickoff meeting at State Farm Arena here in Atlanta, the home of the Atlanta Hawks. And you can see everyone's really smiling and happy and has no idea what's on the horizon, really. And so, here's our crew. Haven't seen a lot of these people since mid-March because, COVID happened. And this has affected every business in the country. And for us, it has been really challenging in a lot of ways. Here's a shot of our hometown of Atlanta. Atlanta has some of the worst traffic in the country, and you can see just empty streets. This is one particularly congested artery that goes into town. It's been an amazing thing to see as the city shut down, no cars on the road. And unfortunately for our business, if there are no cars on the road, that means that people are not parking, and that has a big impact on our business. So this gives you kind of a quick look at what we were dealing with from kind of that early March timeframe, and then you just see versus where we were in February. Basically, the business kind of like just falling off a cliff as states were doing lockdowns and there were stay-at-home orders and offices were going all virtual. No one was out, no one was parking. And even if they were, cities weren't actually enforcing the parking regulations. So it was a challenging time for several months there. And so when you hit these rough patches, especially at a company that had been growing so much and winning all these awards and just setting records really on a weekly basis, when you are in these tough situations, what do you do as a leader? What steps do you take? And that's a lot of what I'm going to talk about in the presentation today. I think one important point I would make is that you have to kind of acknowledge the truth in front of you. You can't just, this is a clip from the movie Naked Gun, but you can't act like it's business as usual when things like a COVID-19 pandemic happen, right? You have to really be proactive. You have to take important steps. Mistakes that I saw business leaders make during this time was trying to act like it was business as usual, right? Trying to act like nothing was going on or business was going to come back right away. A lot of marketing leaders that I talked to were very focused on, holding on to their budget at all costs and not letting go of money, not giving money back to try to stabilize the business to weather the storm. There was this like over-reliance on conventional wisdom. And like a point a lot of marketers make a lot is we have to be always on. We always have to be on, 24/7, every day we have to be on. In a global pandemic, maybe you have to rethink some of the conventional wisdom. And the worst mistake I think a lot of marketers made was only focusing on marketing. During a crisis, it's really all hands on deck, and you have to take a broader view of the company and what resources are needed, where, how to manage costs to get through it. And for marketers only focused on their team, that was a big mistake. Here's the truth. If a marketing leader doesn't make the tough decisions, where to cut, who to let go, what resources to reallocate, they're just going to be taken out of your hands, and the CEO will make it for you, or the CFO will make it for you. That's a common mistake. I talked to peers that said, oh, my boss cut my budget, or my CEO cut my budget. My response to that was, well, I cut my budget myself. I went back to my executive team and said, hey, here are the cuts we're making, because it is a shared sacrifice to get the business through this time. So what are the things you do? Like I said, you have to focus on significant budget cuts. Every team in the company will be trying to cut budget, reduce expense, and that includes marketing. Marketing can't sit there and try to hold on to, their big Google AdWords budget, or their big social media budget, or their army of vendors. You have to make cuts across the board. Renegotiating vendor contracts is critical. Being able to go back to the agencies you're working with and see what your options are. And I actually found a lot of our agency partners were very understanding and very helpful during this time in pausing retainer-based contracts, pausing work, and putting us in a position where we could save money and weather the storm. And I will tell you, a lot of those agency and vendor partners are going to be, they're going to be the winners after we get on the other side of this, because they've built a lot of loyalty from me as a client. Reallocating underutilized personnel is important. So one example, we had a team focused on trade shows. Trade shows went away. What do I do with those people, right? If there's no trade shows, yes, I can give them other work, but potentially there's ways to use that personnel in other parts of the company. And if there's no use for the personnel, you have to make tough decisions on potentially making some cuts. And the last thing is rethinking your overall marketing program. And a lot of us don't do this very often. Once you get into kind of a cadence with the way your marketing program runs, oftentimes you're not thinking about, well, maybe I should change everything. And the pandemic did give us an opportunity to look at every single thing we were doing and really ask the tough questions maybe in a normal world we wouldn't have asked. And I think coming out the other side of the pandemic, we're going to be much stronger for that. One of the nice things, and I assume a lot of people that are on this webinar right now, you have a lot of the modern tooling. We work with Branch as one of our partners on attribution. Having strong attribution data when your CFO is coming to you asking what you can give him back is critical. And that really helped us show, hey, here's what's working, here's what's not. And so we would end up cutting things that we knew quantitatively were not working. And so that really helped us also keep some spend in the tactics that were proven, the tactics that we knew were working very well. We did things like evolving our messaging. Our tagline at ParkMobile is a smarter way to park. And we've been using that for a long time. But what we learned during COVID is that, hey, it's not just about smart parking, it's about contactless payments. And I think Nick talked a little bit about contactless, this term contactless. COVID really made that a buzzy term. Everyone wants contactless payments. And so by shifting that messaging, we are able to get both our users and our clients, who are many times cities, to really start thinking more about, how do I either use contactless payments more often, or how do I get contactless payments into my market, because I don't have a mobile app for parking and I need one because I don't want people touching meters and spreading germs. Staying relevant and providing support. When people aren't parking and people aren't going out, they're not going to be using our app. For many people that use ParkMobile, we are a screen 1 or a screen 2 app. They use us all the time. But if they're not going out, they're working from home now, they're not parking, they're not going to use us. So how do we as a business kind of stay somewhat top of mind with them? And at the same time, what can we do to help during this tough time for everyone? So during March and April timing, we developed a charity campaign using the app. So basically, we converted our app into an app that's used for parking payments, and we converted it to a charity donation tool, which I think was really, really was really great for a lot of reasons. So rather than having to go to different websites and put your email in and create an account and then make a donation, right through the ParkMobile app, you can quickly and easily make a charity donation. And so we raised, over $35,000, including a match from the company for a variety of charities in many of the cities that we serve. And so we were able to do something really support our communities during a really tough time. At the same time, use the app, stay relevant with our users, and kind of stay top of mind. So this is a campaign that we feel, even though it wasn't generating revenue for the company, from a marketing perspective, we think worked very hard for us at a time when people really weren't engaged with parking, weren't engaged in using the app. I talked a little bit about the messaging around contactless payments, but the city of New York, for example, they were really hit hard by COVID. Everyone knows that. And as the city reopened, they desperately did not want people touching the parking meters. They were doing everything they possibly could to get the number of cases down in the city. And so this is an area where we said, all right, what can we do to help? So we launched an outdoor campaign with the city, and you can see it on the link boards in New York. Some of you that are in New York may have seen these. So as people started going out more, started parking in the city, we were really helping the city promote contactless payments, which was really, really important to them, because the more people paying through a mobile app, the less personnel from the city have to be out and about collecting coins out of the meters. We did a lot to partner with both cities and states to help them reopen safely. One of the interesting things about this past summer was that beaches were just blowing up. Like all of our beach communities, we had really record transaction days and months from a parking perspective. It was because camps were canceled, international vacations were canceled. Really, the kinds of vacations people may have done in a traditional summer where they might go to an amusement park or a city, those were canceled. So where'd they all go? They all went to the beach. And beach communities were really concerned because they wanted to make sure that all these people coming to the beach were social distancing, we're being safe, we're wearing masks, we're washing hands. And so this is an example where we actually partnered with the state of Delaware to do a whole, summer safely campaign that included email and in-app messages and press release. And we geofenced the beach communities and did push messages, all designed to reinforce a safety message. And our transactions in the Delaware beaches were up about 25% as a result of this campaign. We even got a shout out from the governor of Delaware, which is pretty cool. I don't think I've ever gotten a shout out from a prominent politician in a state before, but that was really exciting that the governor even was jumping on board. And it was all because we weren't necessarily just promoting parking, we were promoting safety. And that really kind of changed the message for us in a lot of ways. And it was something that was very, very relevant to our users at that time. A lot of cities said, hey, we're just not even going to have the physical parking equipment out anymore because we don't want people touching it. We don't want enforcement personnel out collecting coins. We're going to do mobile only. So the only way to pay for parking in this area was with ParkMobile. So that really put a lot of pressure on us to develop really high impact signage and look for other ways where we could possibly promote ParkMobile. And here you see, this is the city of Belmar, New Jersey, nice beach town in Jersey. We actually did stenciling on the street, as you see here. And we've done things in other lots where we've painted entire parking lots green. And what that enables a city to do is take the equipment out of the city. So it really pushes to a mobile only experience, which is really great. Obviously, it's great for us, but it's also great for the city because they don't have to worry about maintaining, older hardware and having people out there, in the streets collecting coins, servicing that hardware. So kind of a win-win for us and for a lot of our city clients. Another thing we did is we have a lot of data, and we saw very clearly what was happening in the market because we see, are people parking or are they not parking? And we packaged up a lot of this data to really help our clients understand what was going on. How's the recovery going? When do we expect to get back to some level of normalcy or pre-COVID levels? And so we did a lot of sharing of our data with our clients so they could really understand what was going on. We even started sharing this data with some economic forecasters for a lot of the chambers of different cities we work with, the chambers of commerce. So we really wanted to be a partner during this tough time and share the data we have so a lot of our clients could be more knowledgeable. We also do market research with our users. So we did a big consumer behavior study around mobility habits and how people expect to use different mobility modes in the coming months. And what it showed was like a lot of people are going to do a lot less riding on the subway, and they're going to do a lot more in their personal vehicle when they have to go out. So that's kind of an interesting change I think you're going to see as people start going back into cities. The ways that they're going back, are they going to do more of the Ubers? Probably not as much, probably a lot more of personal vehicle usage going forward. And we took this time to really focus on what I would call is patching some leaks in the bucket. Now, as a fast-growing company like ParkMobile, and I'm sure a lot of you are the same way, there's a ton of focus on acquisition, right? You want to see that acquisition number growing. And a lot of times you focus so much on acquisition, you may lose sight of retention. And what are we doing to keep the customers that we have? And we were in that boat. And we were seeing so many customers come in on a daily basis that, we didn't really think that much about what are they doing after the fact. So what we did is, because we weren't as focused on acquisition during this time, because people weren't parking as much, we said, well, let's go back. Let's really take a magnifying glass to different parts of our business. Let's look for areas where we might be losing users. And we found a ton of opportunity that presented itself to us. One area was on credit card expiration. So we weren't thinking about like making sure that people that had a credit card on file that was about to expire, we'd lose that person. But we found when we did the research is that a lot of people, after their credit card expired, they just go away. They don't do another transaction. So we started running a campaign, in just a short amount of time, we got 7,000 people to update the card on file, just through some push messaging, some in-app messaging, and email. So a really successful campaign for us. Now, I apologize if you hear my dogs in the background, because I am working from home, so you may hear some barking. Adding a payment method. This is another one. We found, looking at users we were acquiring, we found a clear link between users that added a payment method and doing a transaction, then doing multiple transactions. But if they don't add a payment method, we lose them forever. So again, launched a campaign really targeted at getting those users who created an account without a payment method to add that payment method. In a very short amount of time, 10,000 users added a payment method. And so, again, another successful campaign. So just in those two examples, 17,000 users who we probably would have lost during normal times, who would have kind of leaked out of that bottom of the bucket, those users ended up staying with us. And that's very exciting. And so even though we're not probably investing as much to acquire users now, we're finding all these new ways to keep the users we have with us and keep them longer and get them to continue to use the app. So that's very exciting. And it's something that probably, if it weren't for COVID, we may not have made the focus in this area. So we're really excited about some of the progress we're making there. This is some data that shows you a bit about our rebound of transactions. And so what you see here, and this is pretty interesting, so we had, we were doing well up until February, March, April, May, really were dreadful. And then you see from June on, we've kind of started coming back up. Now we're nowhere near where we were in February. And that's obviously the goal. We find that a lot of commuters are the heavy users of the ParkMobile app, and they haven't quite gotten back to work yet. And so they're not going back to the office. So it's probably going to take a little bit of time. But on the user growth side, we're really seeing tremendous activity. And you can see September 2020 actually was the first month in a while where we were up year over year during COVID. So we're very excited about that. So we've really turned the acquisition engine back on. We're seeing great results. We expect the transaction volume to continue to pick up over the next coming months. So we're we're in a much better place than we were. We're really seeing a lot of momentum back up into the right after what was a really, really tough time. So, I'll wrap it up by, kind of reinforcing kind of 5 key lessons that I learned as a marketing leader and executive during this time. First, and I think most importantly, being very proactive when it comes to bringing ideas to the table on how you can reduce spend and reallocate your resources. It's critical because, again, what I said before, if you don't make those tough choices yourself, someone else will make them for you, and you probably won't like what they tell you to do. Don't focus on necessarily what you can't do because of budget. So, my budget got really cut, or I cut my budget significantly on the advertising side. But what we didn't really focus on what we lost. We focused on what we could do, and we investigated all these kind of new ideas around how do we get users, how do we retain our users better? And we really made an impact and are moving the needle in that area. Take the opportunity to rethink every aspect of your marketing program. I mean, nothing, what we've found is that, things that we turned off during COVID, we're not turning them back on, because when we looked at those things, they weren't really working that hard for us. And we said, well, maybe we can use that money elsewhere and reinvest that in other programs, or just give it back to the business, because these, we're still not out of the woods yet. And we want to make sure we're saving as much cash as possible. Be a valued partner to your clients. A lot of marketers, I've heard the buzz term, retention is the new acquisition during COVID. And I think that's very true. By really working closely with your partners, showing them you're there for them, that's just going to build longer term relationships over time. And look for those missed opportunities. And that's the thing that I think the lesson from COVID for our team was that, hey, there are so many rocks that we could look under where we can generate more revenue, retain our users longer, move our business forward. And when you're sometimes in kind of a program and the wheels are turning, you're not always looking for those missed opportunities. And that really was hurting us in a way. Our great acquisition numbers were hiding the fact that we were churning a lot of users. And so it's good that we had this, what I call this speed bump, because now we're able to really patch that leaky bucket. We're doing a lot more innovative things, and we're positioning ourselves very well for a post-COVID world as things come back and get better. So that wraps up my time.
I am Brian Garcia, Senior CSM at Branch, and I've had the great pleasure of working with Jeff and his team at ParkMobile for over a year now. So in regards to questions, please feel free to send those over. I do have a few that we've lined up. First, I think your third lesson was around rethinking every aspect of your marketing programs. I'm looking at this from a bit of a biased perspective from Branch, but how did each of the vendors, or how did your tech stack play into helping make those evaluations?
Yeah. I mean, the great thing about having, tools like, we have Branch and we have Braze, those tools give you a lot of data. And essentially for us, during COVID, those tools were kind of off the table as far as like when we looked at our tech stack specifically, and we use Braze and we use Branch. One of the things we realize is that those tools are such critical parts of our business. So they're not just, they're not like, it's not like advertising where you can turn it on or turn it off, right? Braze lives behind our app and is for all of our engagement. All of our links live in Branch and they're everywhere, and we use them for really every campaign we do. So the tools have become just really critical and sticky within our organization. So when we looked at areas to cut, those were the areas that were not on the table. But what's great is, especially with Branch really showed us areas we should cut, and maybe should have even cut sooner, because we really, as we had to like really dig in and look at the attribution data that we got from Branch, it just showed us some things were not working. And back to my point about conventional wisdom, kind of the always on philosophy, especially related to, Google AdWords. we just didn't find it was producing a strong ROI for our business, right? And so when you're in a crisis, anything that doesn't have a strong ROI as a marketing leader, you have to give up on it. Doesn't mean you can't go back at some point. But for us, we just said, hey, we need to save money to weather the storm. And, we're very proud of the fact that we did not do layoffs. We did not furlough employees. And so we came out of this with our whole team intact, which a lot of companies really can't say the same thing. So, but it's only because we had the data to make smart decisions on areas where we could and should cut.
Great. So I think that kind of covers another question that I had around lesson one as well. But looking forward, I mean, COVID had a very surprising impact on every single person in 2020. What trends do you expect for marketers to see in the coming year, in the coming months, and how should they prepare?
Yeah, I think things will continue to come back. We're having kind of a spike in COVID now, but I think people have, unlike before, where everyone felt like you had to shut down. Now people are much smarter. They're not going to big events. They're social distancing. They're wearing masks, and they're washing hands and being a lot more cautious about how many people they interact with, the kinds of activities they do. So people are going to be going out more. So we expect our transaction volume at ParkMobile to continue to go up. I think other businesses will continue to see a slow comeback. I don't think we're not going to get to pre-COVID levels for some time, probably until there's a vaccine, but things are coming back. But what I think marketers need to think about for 2021 especially is how do you invest? Where do you invest? And what changes are you going to make to your marketing spend? I'll tell you an example. We have a sponsorship with an arena, and it's been really hard because we're still paying for that sponsorship, but there's no events at that arena. And you think about that as a marketer, and you're like, wow, that's a lot of money going out the door on a monthly basis that we're getting nothing for right now. So I think marketers going forward, my guess is, are going to be a lot more conservative with making big investments, especially in advertising and sponsorship kind of investments. I think they're just going to be a lot more conservative. And again, the tools like Branch that give you the attribution metrics are going to become even more important, because every dollar you spend is going to be critical that you're getting something out of it. It doesn't have to be a direct one-to-one ROI, but you're getting something for that investment. I don't think the broad-based awareness plays are going to be, that kind of media is going to probably be struggling once we get on the other side of the election, because right now they're having a grand old time with all the political advertising. But once we get on the other side, I think they're going to struggle. I think marketers have pulled back and are not ready to start investing again in broad-based advertising tactics. And so we'll have to see what happens and how those dollars start to come back into the market.
Great. I think my last question was going to be around where to start investing in which areas, such as growing your team again, but you kind of alluded to that. Did you want to expand on maybe things like growing your team and things of that sort?
Yeah, well, I think we're probably, when you have a downturn in the business and then you start to come back, we're not going to look to aggressively grow the team, right? But an example, as trade shows come back next year, there's going to be live trade shows again. We may have to, we cut ahead in that area. We may have to grow that team again to service the trade shows, or maybe we won't. Maybe we'll reallocate that work within some other parts of the team. So we take it kind of at this point on a month by month basis. I'm planning to more or less stay flat for 2021, and then we'll reassess after that. I think it's too early to have aggressive growth plans, right now. I think we have to kind of continue to focus on driving revenue growth, making sure we're reducing costs and expenses as much as possible, and then set ourselves up with a lot of foundational pieces. So when we do get to the other side of COVID, we'll be even stronger and really be able to accelerate everything we're doing.
So it looks like we got a question. It says something, how do you make decisions whether to focus and allocate more resources during the crisis months on the activities that can be done during the epidemic with about a $0 budget to get some revenue or retention versus prepping ramp up plans for better times?
Yeah, I think I alluded to it in the presentation, but yeah, we really took our budget down massively because for us, if people aren't parking, it doesn't make a sense to have a lot of advertising in the market to try to acquire users who aren't parking. That's just how our business works. So with zero budget, a lot of the campaigns that we did were around more like the cause marketing. So the things I showed you earlier in the presentation related to trying to raise money for charities that are supporting COVID in a lot of the cities where we operate. That was 100% our focus because we weren't going to sell parking. So we wanted to make sure people could use our app to donate money to good charities that were supporting COVID. And we did get a lot of press out of that, actually. So we got some earned media that we didn't have to pay for. So that was probably one thing. To the second part of your question, a lot of the things that we're doing that we weren't doing pre-COVID, the things that were kind of patching the leaky bucket, that's still the focus. We have just found huge opportunity within our user base to get them, a lot of them haven't used in a while, to get them back, to get them using more often, to make sure, again, credit cards aren't expiring and we're losing a user. We're losing a user because there was something in the app experience where they didn't add a vehicle or they didn't add a payment method. So we're really focused on that, focused on doing everything we can to convert the users we have and to keep them using the app. And as things start to come back, we'll look to strategically invest money. I mean, I showed you the campaign we did in New York City. So we are going to invest money where we think it's going to produce an ROI for the business. But I think honestly, like I've worked in a ton of different companies. There is no marketing department I've ever been a part of where there weren't probably 30 things that you didn't have time to get to, but you knew would add value to the business. And we're kind of knocking a lot of those things out off our punch list right now. And so that's, as a marketer that has limited budget right now because of COVID, that's the mindset is, okay, what can we do without huge budgets? What can we do to retain users, to build better client relationships, and to set ourselves up in a position so we'll be even stronger coming out of COVID?
Awesome. And then I think we're almost out of time, but one last question. So Jeff, great talk. What are your marketing ideation sessions like, all together on video, people bringing random ideas to the table, starting from a particular metric or goal?
Yeah, so we're virtual, so we're not in the office right now. So everything we're doing is through Zoom. So we're fortunate to have Zoom as a tool. And a lot of the ideation we do is really, it's through Zoom, it's through Slack. And honestly, so I'm an older guy. I've been in an office environment my whole career. I've never worked remotely. I've never worked from home. So for me, I'm a big whiteboard person. I like to get up on the whiteboard and kind of kick around ideas. I like just kind of doing brainstorms on the fly in the office, just kind of stopping by people's desks. So for me, it was a real adjustment. But at this point, we're used to it. If we need to brainstorm on an issue, we have a Zoom call. We kind of go through the issues. We talk about, some ideas and solutions, and then we move forward. So it's pretty, I've had a really good experience overall. A little bragging point, I'm #1 in my company for Zoom minutes. I don't know if that's even something to brag about, but I'm on a lot of Zooms, and we do a lot of virtual collaboration, a lot of virtual brainstorms. And even you can see behind me, I've kind of turned my home office, which is like my kids' playroom, into, kind of a Kanban board. So I'm always kind of putting ideas up on the board to make sure that, I'm still working those brainstorming muscles just in a different way. And I think we've all during this time figured out different ways to work, different ways to be productive. And fortunately for us, we have great tools today. I mean, Zoom is amazing tool that we're on. Hop in now for virtual conferences is great. And so, these tools really do help. They make a difference. And I think we actually just did an NPS study with our company, and we got very high NPS scores recently. And we were worried because we said, hey, we're not together. We're not in an office. We don't have this great culture that we used to have in the office. How's that going to resonate in a employee engagement survey? And employees are just as engaged as they've been. And so it's a good lesson that we can work remotely. We're going to stay remote probably into next year. So, but we're very productive, and we've gotten a lot more done than I ever thought we would get done being a remote team.
Gotcha. I was actually going to ask if that was your at-home whiteboard or maybe some homeschooling. Yeah,
that's my little Post-it note creation.
I think we do have time for one last question that we got. Jeff, how are you proactively increasing and improving customer engagement? Yeah,
that's a great question, and that's a pretty broad question to take on. So we use we're heavy users of Branch. That's kind of our engagement tool. And one of the things with our business, as a parking app, we've learned kind of the hard way that we don't have tons of permissions to be intrusive with people. And so people don't want to hear from their parking app that often unless really they need to park. And so one of the great things about Braze is that we've gotten really targeted with our messaging. And so we have all different kinds of segments based on where the people are located, which is really important for us, how often they use the app. And then as people are traveling, we're notifying them as they go into different markets where ParkMobile is available that, hey, we see you've driven from Philly to Washington, D.C. Did you know you can use the ParkMobile app to pay for parking in Washington, D.C.? So a lot of the things that we do with our engagement program is not just branding or top of mind awareness, but it's actually trying to be very helpful with our users to make sure that they know wherever they go, they can use ParkMobile to park in that city. Or if they live in a city where they're already using ParkMobile, educating them on other places in the city they can use ParkMobile. So if you use ParkMobile to park on the street in Atlanta, you might not be aware that you can also use it to make a parking reservation at the stadium in Atlanta. And so a lot of it is that cross promotion, letting people know all the ways that you can use ParkMobile to pay for parking. And really that kind of communication has been very effective for us. We see an open rate usually above about 30% with any email communication we send, which I think is pretty good for an app that is essentially a utility parking app. We're not a brand like Nike or Peloton. That's a passion app. So we've really gotten smart about how and when and the frequency in which we engage with our users. And as a result, our engagement program has really done a lot to drive more usage, to drive cross usage of our products, and to retain our users over time.
Awesome. Well, we are being told that we're just about out of time. So thank you, Jeff, for your time today. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Remember, Jeff's book, How Not to Suck at Marketing, comes out next summer, I believe.
Yep. Mid 2021, hopefully.
All right. Fingers crossed. All right, guys. Well, thank you again, and have a good one.
All right.